France and the United States are all ranged against China.
Right, and it definitely makes you wonder what the United States would be saying if China were actually rivaling what the U.S. was doing. And now, Michael, I want to bring you into this because I know, as George mentioned there, when it comes to defensive capabilities, I mean, we're looking at the United States increasing its defense budget to $778 billion next year. And yet, when you look at the fact that China is increasing its defensive capabilities, is there something wrong with that from the U.S. standpoint, specifically when you look at the fact that they have the ability to defend their own homeland and they don't seem to be targeting the U.S.?
No, thanks for having me. They are not targeting the U.S. per se, but what the U.S. is projecting through its net assessment is that by up to 2050, and I've been saying this for some time, China intends to build up its military as well as its economic prowess throughout the world, and China will need the means to defend that. Namely, you're seeing China increasing its power projection. It's increasing its military. And when you have when you have a superpower and a superpower wannabe wanting to be in competition for world dominance and influence, this is what you're going to see. And of course, the United States is going to try to paint China as a boogeyman. But the reality is China is increasing its military, land, and air capabilities extraordinarily so, to the point it's now, it just did a hypersonic. And I think ultimately all of this is going to be a lot of money down the drain because nobody is going to be using nuclear weapons. And I think the next deterrence could be this hypersonic that could become nuclearized very quickly. And no one's going to use that either. China, with its 200 nukes now, is more than enough. We have over 5,000. We don't need that much. I mean, it would obliterate the world. It's unrealistic.
Right, and certainly you hope that whenever nuclear war, whenever we start talking to that raises a lot of concerns and makes you want to make sure that those countries are tamping down on everything as much as possible.
Well, you have a self-fulfilling prophecy here as a consequence. That's the problem.
Right. Now, George, I want to get your input on that because I know Michael brought up the increased global influence that we've seen, and we've watched the U.S. increase its military presence in the Indo-Pacific, specifically under both Trump and now Biden. And this report from the Pentagon expresses concern that China could pursue military action specifically against Taiwan. Now, Biden has even said the U.S. would come to Taiwan's defense in that case. So how has it gotten to that point?
Well, one of the reasons that China is increasing its military expenditure, which remains a tiny fraction of the United States' expenditure, is that the United States and its allies are currently, right this minute, steaming through the South China Sea with a complete array of weaponry and naval assets. The U.S. has ringed China with military bases in other people's countries. You can't imagine why China feels nervous about that, can you? So they have every right to defend themselves. The bottom line, as Alex Mihailovich says, is that the Chinese will overtake the United States by 2050, maybe long before that, as the world's #1 economy and with a military capability every bit the equal of those that are currently threatening it. As for Taiwan, Taiwan is a part of China, like California is a part of the United States. China does not want to retake it by force, never has done, could have done any day of the week, any time in the last 60 years, but has not done so. It wants reunification of the whole of its territory. The United States accepts that Taiwan is a part of China. The majority of Taiwan people accept that they are a part of China. To make this into the potential cause of World War III doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it truly does raise a lot of questions. Now, Michael, when it comes to that, when we're talking about specifically this report from the Pentagon, because it kind of tries to paint China as this possible volatile country whenever it comes to increasing the nuclear warheads that it has. I mean, if that's the case, if the U.S. is actually concerned, then why do you think that they're increasing their military presence in China's backyard instead of dealing with them much more carefully as they would with, say, another country like North Korea?
Well, it's the big boy on the block, and the United States is trying to maintain its hegemony, if you will. And as George points out, the United States policy tends to form a containment of China, just like we did, like we're doing with Russia right now. There is a form of containment there, and we are working with allies. We're getting Australia in, nuclearizing their submarines. So this does ratchet up the intensity. And yes, there is a freedom of the sea issue that the United States pushes because China claims all of East and South China Sea as its pond.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see China in the Gulf of Mexico. You don't see them. You are seeing maybe some subs off of California, but from time to time. But you're not seeing the concentration of Chinese military in the area of the United States as you do U.S. in the area of China. And so the United States China is more of an economic competitor for the U.S. And that's what the U.S. is ratcheting up. And you have the neocons who are within the administration, whether it's Democrat or Republican. You're always going to have that influence to try to increase and keep that military budget going with the defense machinery in the U.S. and the industries. So it's a vicious circle.
That it is, and it's all about that global influence at the end of the day. I know we could talk about this all day long, but we're going to have to leave.